Welcome to Unspoken Affairs. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Your support allows us to continue sharing unforgettable true stories that keep you on the edge of your seat. In today's video, I'm bringing you a story that still haunts me to this day. It's the story of the night everything changed for my brother and me, a night when loyalty and survival clashed. When love for family pushed us into choices we never imagined. And when I learned just how far fear can drive a person, I remember the first night the danger felt real. It wasn't just a vague worry anymore, it was something I could smell, hear, and almost touch. The air outside our tiny apartment smelled of damp pavement from a light drizzle that had fallen earlier. The faint hum of a broken street lamp flickered like it was struggling to hold on. Each blink sending shadows creeping along the cracked walls of our building. Beneath all of it was the loudest sound of all my own heartbeat hammering in my chest. My name is Ada, and I'm 26 years old. For most of my life, it's been just me and my older brother. David, when I was 19, we lost everything that mattered in a single afternoon. Our parents had gone out for a Sunday drive. We were still joking about dinner plans earlier that day, but by that evening, David and I were standing in a sterile hospital corridor. Numb and hollow, being told our parents had died in a car accident. Just like that, we were orphans. I remember staring at David, wondering how we were supposed to breathe, how to pay the rent, how to keep living. David was only 23 then, too young to step into the role of a parent. But he tried. He really did. He worked long hours, grabbing whatever jobs he could, construction shifts, delivery routes, late-night office cleaning. At first, I admired him so much for it. He was determined to keep us afloat, and for a while he managed. But grief is heavy. It doesn't just sit quietly in the corner, it finds the cracks in your heart and widens them. For David, those cracks turned into something darker. It started small. A harmless card game with friends. A little money on a late-night football game. I'd find folded betting slips in his jacket pocket, or hear him whispering into his phone long after midnight. I asked him about it once, and he grinned at me with tired eyes. "Don't worry, Ada. One big win and we're set." But that big win never came. What came instead were shadows. At first I noticed unfamiliar men hanging around our building. 2, sometimes 3 of them. They weren't neighbors. They never carried groceries or chatted with anyone. Their eyes followed David when he walked through the courtyard, and when he wasn't around, those same eyes followed me. It started with polite knocks at the door. "Is David home?" They'd ask, smiling too easily, their voices smooth but their stares sharp. When I told them he wasn't, they lingered. Their eyes scanned the hallway, then slid back to me like a blade dot. At first I told myself I was imagining things, but the visits grew more frequent. The tension in David's shoulders when he came home told me everything I needed to know. The debt had grown too big. One rainy evening, David stumbled inside, his face pale and drained of all color. He collapsed onto the couch, elbows on his knees, his hands trembling. "They want it all," he whispered. Every cent a night I searched his face for some sign that he was exaggerating, but there was nothing. We had nothing left. No savings, no valuables, no family to call for help. "You don't understand," he said, his eyes red and wild. "These aren't people you can bargain with. They'll come for me. Maybe for us." The weight of his words pressed down on me until it was hard to breathe. For days we scrambled. We borrowed from friends, sold what little we had, begged for extra hours at work. But the debt was too big and the clock was ticking. Every knock at the door jolted me with fear. Then, one night, David came home with a plan I'll never forget. His voice was tight, his jaw clenched. "I can fix this," he said. "One job. Risky, but it clears the debt." I demanded to know what kind of job. He avoided my eyes. "Just a delivery," he said. "Late night, across the city. For people I barely know." The way his voice caught on that last part told me everything. These were the same people who had been haunting our doorstep. He wouldn't tell me the details, only that it involved cash. Only that backing out wasn't an option, I argued. I begged. I shouted until my throat hurt. But David was resolute. "This is the only way, Ada. One night and we're free." I wanted to believe him, but deep inside, dread coiled in my stomach like a living thing. The night of the delivery was cursed from the start. Nothing went right. His contact changed the meeting point 3 different times. Streetlights flickered out as we drove through the city, plunging roads into stretches of uneasy darkness. Every shadow seemed alive, watching us. David finally parked near an abandoned warehouse, his face pale but determined. He pulled a small burner phone from his pocket and handed it to me. "If I'm not back in an hour, call the number saved as safe," he said. His hand shook as he gave it to me. Then, without another word, he disappeared into the darkness with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Minutes dragged like hours. Rain hammered against the windshield. The warehouse loomed in front of me, silent except for the occasional groan of old metal in the wind. My heart thudded painfully with every second that passed. At 45 minutes, the phone buzzed. A single text appeared on the screen. "Run." My chest tightened so hard I thought I might faint. I scrambled into the driver's seat, fumbling with the keys when headlights flared behind me. A black SUV pulled in, blocking the exit. 2 men stepped out. I recognized them instantly. They were the ones who'd been waiting in our hallway. They approached with unnerving calm, more terrifying than if they had been shouting. One of them tapped on my window, his smile almost polite. I locked the doors and gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. "Where's David?" the taller one asked. His voice was low, almost friendly, but his eyes were sharp, dangerous. I shook my head, unable to speak. "Move the car," he said calmly. When I didn't respond, his smile faded. He leaned closer to the glass. "You don't want this to get messy." Before I could answer, a loud crash echoed from the warehouse. Metal against metal. Then footsteps pounding against wet pavement. David burst into view, sprinting toward the car, the duffel bag clutched in his arms. Another man chased him, shouting. I unlocked the passenger door just as David dove inside. "Go," he shouted. Tires screeched as I slammed my foot on the gas. The SUV roared after us. Rain slicked the streets and the city lights blurred across the windshield. Every corner felt like it might send us spinning out of control. But somehow, after weaving through a maze of side streets, the SUV's headlights finally vanished from the rearview mirror. David collapsed against the seat, chest heaving, clutching the duffel bag like it was his lifeline. We didn't speak a word until we were back home. When he finally unzipped the bag, I saw stacks of cash, far more than he owed. His hands trembled. His face was pale. "It's over," he whispered. But even then, his voice didn't sound convinced. Over the next few weeks, the men outside disappeared. No more knocks at the door. No more late-night calls. But something in David had changed. He rarely slept. He jumped at every little noise. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at the duffel bag, his eyes dark, filled with thoughts he didn't share. Months later, a detective knocked on our door. He asked about a break-in at a private vault across town. The same night David made the delivery. No one had been hurt, but a large sum of money was missing. My stomach dropped. The detective said they had no proof, only questions. David feigned ignorance, but I saw guilt flicker in his eyes. That night, David finally confessed everything. The delivery wasn't just a delivery act, was a setup. The duffel bag contained money stolen by the very men who had threatened him. He was their pawn, used to move cash under police radar. If he refused, they would have made good on their threats. His voice broke when he said, "I didn't know how else to protect you. I just wanted us to live." We made a choice that night. To disappear from that old life. Quietly, carefully, we used a fraction of the money to pay off debts. Then we left. We moved to a new city, started over. But survival has a cost. The fear never fully leaves. Even now, years later, when someone knocks unexpectedly at the door, my heart races. Sometimes I wonder if those men are still out there. Sometimes I wonder if one day our past will find us. But for now, we are alive together. And that's the story I promised to tell the night loyalty. Fear and desperation nearly destroyed us, and how we found a fragile way out. If you found this story gripping, make sure to subscribe to Unspoken Affairs and tap the notification bell so you don't miss the next true thriller from my life and from others who have faced impossible choices.